the big issue in Michigan is going to be how many people vote for uncommitted.
Yep. Because Trump and Biden obviously will run away with it. There's no chance Nikki Haley even makes it interesting.
And I think who else is going to be on the ballot in Michigan? It's just Dean Phillips.
Yeah.
And there was something like 1.5 million people who voted in the Michigan primary in 2020. And that primary was just as or just before that primary was still when the primary was still actually happening in 2020. You'll recall, we didn't shut down until around, I think it was March 13th or 14th or somewhere around there in 2020. And it's anticipated that there may be a little bit more than 1 million voters in total, maybe more, in this Democratic primary. There's already been a lot of early voting. But there has been an attempt, and this has been ongoing for a couple months, to vote for uncommitted as a way of protesting Biden's policies regarding Israel. There is obviously a huge, in Michigan, Muslim and Arab population. I think close to 300,000.
Yeah.
This is not a monolithic group. I mean, we have people from many different countries, but an important voting bloc. But really, what's really going to be telling is how much this voting for uncommitted moves out to younger progressives is really because alone, I don't think you can see this. Marion, I guess Williamson's still on the ballot in Michigan. But voting uncommitted, in my opinion, is going to be the best way to express
Absolutely.
to the Biden administration. Here is a clip. This is from Friday. This is courtesy of CBS News Detroit's Ibram Samra in Dearborn, Michigan. And she's speaking. This is, here, listen to this.
This is a survivor. I don't think she says it's a survivor of the 1948 Nakba. She's an older woman, and she's pleading with the Biden administration.
Message to Joe Biden and the Democratic Party.
Oh, this is a different clip.
I find it so strange that our president would veto a ceasefire. People are dying. Over 30,000 has already died. What more? They are angry. We are definitely betrayed. And definitely we should vote uncommitted. The Nakba has taught me is that I have to know my story well. First thing I did, I studied Hebrew. I went to Oxford University to do a PhD. I wrote the history of Haifa. I became an academic, learning because they tell us you're not straight. I was told at UCLA, clearly, no, you are biased because I'm telling the real story. Testimonies of people who told about what happened in 48. It can never be forgotten. We will never stop telling.
Her name is May Sikale, I guess. Right now, there's polling in Emerson polling. Do you want to read off some of those numbers?
Yeah, let me pull it up right here, actually. It's not right in front of me,
okay.
but well, I can give you a sense just because from memory, largely. Here you go. So I believe that 9% plan. Here we go. 9% in advance are planning to vote uncommitted today, but there are 12% who are undecided. So that range is I think it's going to be more, if I were to guess right now, than 9%. But that requires people to show up. But I would imagine that a good percentage of that 9% already voted early, as you say. 28% of voters under 30 plan to vote uncommitted. So when you're talking about mobilizing young people, this is not just Arab Americans or Muslim Americans. This is our young people who are trying to pressure Biden in this way. And so if you're in Michigan today and you're listening to this, I'd really encourage you to go out. I know that electoralism in the face of this genocide, it seems like, you're pushing a boulder up a hill and then it's just going to roll back down on you. What's the name of that myth? Gosh, Sisyphus. I wanted to say syphilis, but that's not. Anyway, that's not it. But yeah, I'd encourage people to do that because there was a bit of a last-ditch effort in New Hampshire to write in ceasefire, and those votes were. I don't know what the final tally of that was, but this has been a longer campaign, and Rashida Tlaib is endorsing it and part of the movement behind it. I heard this morning.
I think Andy Levin is too.
There's a lot of Democrats in Michigan who have to respond to these constituencies from like a state electoral perspective that are endorsing this that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate. And Abdullah Hammoud, who is the mayor of Dearborn, I was listening to NPR this morning, had a quote where he, paraphrasing, was saying, "We may not be large enough to swing an election, but we are large enough to lose an election." And that portion of Arab American voters could actually literally lose Biden the election. So his internal numbers seemingly doesn't seem to be swaying him. But we've seen that. We've seen this before. We've seen this movie before.
I mean, we will, it depends on which reporting you believe, but there is at least some reporting that they are nervous in the, this is from Politico Playbook. They are freaking out about the uncommitted vote, said a Democrat close to Biden. This is going to create, I mean, if you start to see the numbers, now there were 20,000 people who voted uncommitted in 2020. Now that was out of 1.5. So you can do the math there better than I can probably, but that's 7%, maybe 6%. But if you start to see like 9, 10%, if you start to see 100,000 people vote uncommitted in this election, because I mean, again, it's one thing for people to come out and vote uncommitted in a race where there's a lot of people, there's a lot of excitement. That there was a lot of primary contenders at that time. You get people to come out who are coming out specifically to vote uncommitted, and we're talking about 100,000 people in Michigan. That's a big deal because Biden won Michigan, what was it, a couple 100,000?
154,000 votes, but Trump won by 11,000 in 2016. And so that was a 3% victory by Biden in 2020. Are we convinced that turnout broadly will be what it was in 2020? I don't know. Then when you have fewer numbers, those the percentages start to make more of a difference. Also, one thing that would be interesting to note is, 28% of voters under 30 plan to vote uncommitted. I'd be curious as to what percentage of voters under 45, because the electorate is getting younger. This electorate is going to be younger because you're starting to see the greatest generation, the boomers in particular, right? This was when you compare, Gen X, my generation, tiny relative to the boomers and the millennials. And when the millennials begin to gain on boomers, which is going to be happening this cycle, the next cycle, the cycle after that, the boomers are going to be within 12 years, the boomers are going to be largely a rump generation, and it's going to be about millennials. But that's starting to happen. So it'd be
28% of voters under 30, 15% of voters under 45. That's a big number of votes.
Oh, yeah.
Particularly in this election. So we shall see.
We shall see.
And we'll talk more about that tomorrow. How much influence will that have on Joe Biden?
Well, he was on Seth Meyers last night saying he was a Zionist, so not that much.
Yeah. We'll
Not enough right now, at least. Hopefully soon. I want him to see results and get freaked out.
Let's skip the Super Bowl. Let's skip the Super Bowl interview.
Drill.
Seth Meyers.
I just want to address this. Drill on the IM said the 2012 Democratic primary had under 200,000 votes total. That was the year where the Michigan primary didn't count, I believe. Because they had because there was some issue with the DNC. So I think you got to really look to 2020 before you, and maybe even 2016. 2012 is just not an operative year. It was a unique situation.